Our members are all CEOs or at least division general managers of their healthcare companies or technology companies. And so they're making an investment of their time to be with us for the 3 or 4 hours that their roundtable takes. So we wondered internally, what makes it worth their while to make this investment, and what do they think about on their way home from the roundtables?
So in the last probably month and a half, the 2 meetings I attended, one was a deep dive into the difference between commercial and consumer drone technology. And the other was a deep dive into the difference between predictive analytics and artificial intelligence. And so, getting into the nuances of those and then thinking about how could you marry that information and what does that create in terms of a business opportunity, that's just one example. I'm not going to tell you what idea came out of it, but that's a great example of doing a deep dive with people who are really knowledgeable and then having it be fodder for new ideas.
I came in this morning from Atlanta. I was presenting, and I was supposed to be on a panel at a conference called MedTrade, a big medical equipment show, and I was coming on to talk about health policy, and there was going to be another panelist who was going to talk about aging in place. And lo and behold, the panel starts, and the other panelists missed their flight, didn't show up. And so we were on the spot. Who was going to talk about aging in place? Well, luckily, just 5 days ago, I was at the Los Angeles ABL meeting and heard two of a group member, Marcy Chamate from SCAN, and one of her colleagues come and do an amazing presentation on really understanding the silver tsunami and all the phases of aging. So all of a sudden, I was able, in a pinch, to hold forth in a really deep, meaningful way about the various stages of aging, and the panel went off without a hitch. And I feel like that's what ABL constantly does. It's about making me smarter.
North Bay is one of 2 organizations in California that is part of the Mayo Clinic Care Network. So we have a very special relationship with the Mayo Clinic. I got a call one day from my contacts at the Mayo Clinic saying they had a San Francisco patient who needed some really top-level home care. Could I recommend a good home health service? I immediately called a colleague from ABL who was in the hospice and also in home health, and she actually recommended another company because of where this person was going to be as top-notch. So I was able to call Mayo right back and give them a really good reference for one of their patients. So it was, it was kind of like a small little lifesaver.
I was at a meeting, and we were talking about how to approach payers for healthcare, and what happened was we had a discussion in the meeting. And as I was driving home, I was sitting there thinking, that was an interesting point, and I never thought about approaching a payer with that sort of story or approach. And by the way, it actually worked. We were able to sign up our first ACO last week, so it does work.
So the roundtable discussion and presentation was on artificial intelligence in the consumer space. Now, we're really more of a back office or a back end. About a year ago, we had looked at bringing in artificial intelligence into our business. So it was more of an education of the fact that while we called it AI, and actually the machine has a name, what we were really doing was machine learning. But it was a confirmation and an affirmation that that is the right direction for where we are, because we're really not going to engage with a consumer, and we're really not going to create a personalized experience for you or I. What we really want to do is find opportunities that will help drive our business by identifying trends and patterns and using the machine to help us identify where we should focus certain attention on, and then ultimately use that as a competitive advantage.
The most recent meeting I went to, we were evaluating somebody else's business idea, and myself and another executive in there were giving him advice, and by giving him advice, I realized how smart we were doing our project, because some of the things that I thought were intuitive, he didn't have going on for him. He had a great idea, he didn't know how to get it into the marketplace and how to make it an actionable business. And I just thought it was a very good exercise.
But the one most recent comes to mind, of course. The last roundtable I was at was extremely enlightening for me, personally, professionally, and practically. Personally, there were two women presenting AI, and the information that they were presenting was based on many, many years of experience. And one presenter in particular had marketed technology into the world market several times. So on a personal level, I was just amazed. You don't always hear a woman's story of that caliber. So on a personal level, it was very enthusiastic. I was very enthusiastic about the possibilities for my company just based on being personally motivated from that presentation. That was a little rare because there aren't always women presenters at our group. So that was a personal experience. Professionally, of course, the insight that that brought from a marketing perspective, as well as its connection to the local business environment, was extremely informative. And I'm back in a period in my healthcare experience where there is so much unpredictability, and at the same time, huge challenges in terms of reimbursement, how to restructure your business in light of the changes pending, that AI was just a refreshing alternative to, hey, why don't I take a look at my business all around based on this change in the future. So, you know, I got it on 3 levels. It was fabulous.
One story I can recall is when we were implementing the Affordable Care Act, and everyone was just abuzz about how is this going to work and is it going to work, and David Sion from CMS came, and Mimi Grant had another expert come, and by the end of the meeting all of our questions were answered, and I left thinking, boy, I could have gone to 6 webinars and read 20 articles and would not have gotten all that information all at once, and would not have been able to ask all the questions I had. So it was just a one-stop shop.